Are you looking for a sweet deck using Modern Horizons 3 cards to play in the Historic Artisan event, or maybe just a budget deck to play in Historic? I got you covered. I got 3 awesome new, completely original deck lists using Modern Horizons 3 cards. Well, let's check them out. Welcome to the Attic Mana Dad here. This is the channel where we explore what's fun in Magic, mostly on Arena. Today on Arena, it is Historic Artisan event. As I record this, I've tested all these decks in the event itself. They all win very handily, which I was pleased with because I've been sick. I've been wanting to record this video before the event. And pardon me if I have to cough a bunch as I'm making this. And I'm probably going to keep this video a little shorter than usual because of my voice. But I wanted to get this out here for you guys. The last deck is going to be my pick for the best deck in Historic Artisan at the current moment, so stick around for that. But this first deck is the deck I built first because it's the deck I wanted to play, I wanted to see. Mainly starting with Writhing Chrysalis. If you played Modern Horizons 3 Limited, you know this is the Mythic common. It might be better than all the rares and mythics in the set in terms of win rate. It's just an absolutely busted card, and it's a common. And so I wanted to build a deck that basically works to use this to its fullest. And the way we're going to do that is actually using all Modern Horizons 3 cards. So you could do a couple drafts, try to, force this, and probably save yourself a bunch of wild cards and get this deck and get a bunch of other cool Modern Horizon 3 cards while you're at it. What are we going to do? Okay, so we would want to try to get Writhing Chrysalis on turn 3. You could put some elves in to accelerate. They die very easily. So does Nightshade Dryad, but we're going to go with Nightshade Dryad. The nice thing about Nightshade Dryad is it taps for colorless, which is also useful for our other turn 3, we're going to say, threat. We're going to try to get it down on turn 3. Our other 4-drop threat, Wumpus Aberration, which you do want to cast with colorless, because if you don't, then opponent gets to put a creature in. In this format, maybe you can take that risk. People don't necessarily always have big creatures. If you kind of see your opponent's playing a weenie deck, you might go, yeah, okay, I'll play a 6/6 and drop it in. But most of the time, the deck's going to be able to get colorless. We got 4 colorless sources here in the mana base. We got Nightshade Dryad as a colorless source. And of course, we're going to be generating a ton of spawn tokens with things like Malevolent Rumble, Basking Broodscale. When you adapt it, will make a spawn. Glimpse the Impossible. Often we're just going to play this if we, for some reason on turn 3, aren't able to accelerate out one of our 4-drops. Glimpse the Impossible on turn 3. Don't even bother to try and impulse play anything. Just make 3 spawns. We were immediately accelerated into playing a 4-drop or even a 5-drop. Here we got a couple fun 5-drops. Spawn Gang Commander is a great way to close out the game by just throwing our extra spawns for 2 damage. Territory Color is a nice 7/5 reach that's a beast to try to attack through and a beast on the attack. And as we do land drops, we get to draw creatures, which our deck is mostly creatures. And of course, these fetch lands can trigger multiple landfall triggers. And if we do get to the really top end, there's Breaker of Creation, which I think might be one of the best, if not the best, creatures in this Historic Artisan format. 8/4 hexproof from each color, Annihilator 2. Plus, when you drop it, you're going to gain 1 life for each colorless permanent you control, and that includes lands. So let's say you had 5 lands and you spent 3 spawns, so you had to sacrifice the spawns, but maybe you have another Eldrazi or 2. You're going to gain like 6 life as you drop this in, and then opponent is just defeated pretty much at that point because it's very hard to get rid of. There aren't a ton of board wipes in this format. Also in the mana base, mostly going to be playing this as a land Drowner of Truth, but if we do get to the late game and have plenty of mana, you can just cast it as a 7/6 threat that also makes some spawns. And of course, spawns are going to grow the Writhing Chrysalis. This creature is just a beast to try to attack through. It's going to stabilize you when you're behind, and it's going to win you the game when you're ahead. The trample is nice on the Wumpus Aberration, however. The fact that this doesn't have trample is tricky. And then the first draft of this deck, I didn't have Galvanic Discharge, but I just felt like being able to answer opponents' early drops, their Nightshade Dryads or what have you, their early creatures. Sometimes they're going to try to do the Bogle's thing where they drop a bunch of enchantments on something. Having an instant speed removal spell you can hold up zap their thing before it goes is pretty nice. We don't have any other way to make energy, so you know, if you do get this in multiples and you don't have to spend on the first time you use it, you don't have to spend your full amount of energy, then you can hit bigger and bigger things. But I think usually we're going to have the biggest creatures on the board. And that's why this Horrific Assault is pretty nice. It's a punch spell. Creature deals power equal, or deals damage equal to its power. And if we control an Eldrazi, we gain 3 life. Well, we're almost always going to be controlling an Eldrazi. You can use it with the Death Touch creature and no other Eldrazi's out, but everything else is pretty much an Eldrazi. Even the spawns are Eldrazi spawns. So a little bit of extra life gain so that we can get in the late game and cast some giant. Beasties is a ton of fun. Okay, my voice is giving out, so let's go to deck number 2. Okay, if you've been playing any Timeless, you know the hottest deck in Timeless right now is Boros Energy. So what's good enough for Timeless is certainly good enough for Historic. And that's what we're doing here. Unfortunately, we do lose some of the rares. Why is this giving me like a weird orange glow? Anyways. But again, mostly MH3 cards, but not all MH3 cards. We do have stuff like Monastery Swift Spear and Fairy Guide Mother, and then pretty much else, you know, Abraded Bluffs in the mana base. So let's take a look at what Boros Energy does. It's going to generate a ton of energy. Our key card here is the common signpost Conduit Goblin. So on turn 2, hopefully we've, you know, thanks to our dual lands, hopefully we've gotten the red and the white, and we're going to be able to drop a Conduit Goblin. And if that sticks around, then it can haste in other things. So making an Amp Raptor hasty, or the Amp Raptor can be able to play almost anything off the top of the library. And in fact, if we've, you know, built up our energy stores, it could even play Scurry of Gremlins or something like that off the top. Amp Raptor, in case you don't know, this is an uncommon that's also just kind of insane and is being played in various legacy formats. It's a 2/1 first strike. It enters, you get 2 energy. And if you cast it from your hand, you exile cards from the top of the library until you exile a non-land. And you can cast that card by paying an amount of energy equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. So if this is the first energy creator we've cast, we can hit, you know, 90% of the deck. But if not, then we can even hit some of these other ones. Ghostfire Slice, I've noticed when I was playing, is pretty nice. A lot of people are running multicolored permanents. I almost never had to pay the full 3 mana for this. Also note that this can go face. So this is an aggro deck. You just want to try to hit hard. Static Prison, just remove blockers, get stuff out of the way, be getting in for damage. You can get them low enough where you can either finish them off with the Ghostfire Slice, or you get the Scurry of Gremlins, and you make 2 1/1 Gremlins. You generate an amount of energy equal to the number of creatures you control, and then you can +1/+0 haste and just swing wide and get your last damage that way. And sometimes we're going to be able to, you know, +2/+0 or +3/+0, because this deck actually does generate energy pretty fast. Couple one-ofs in here. Jolted Awake. I just went with one of these. It cycles, which is something to keep in mind. I think that text often gets ignored, but it's just to bring back a creature spell. Another reason I liked Indebted Spirit here is because when it dies, it leaves behind a 1/1 flyer. I feel like the way this deck loses is just people have a ton of removal and they just keep removing your creatures and then they've stabilized. So we want to just be able to bring stuff back or have stuff that leaves behind a body, and then in the end we're just going to keep hitting and hitting and hitting until we've ground them down. It's working surprisingly well. One of Inventor's Axe, nice to pop on a flyer, or, you know, Fairy Guide Mother. Fairy Guide Mother can also pop something in the air, get that prowess trigger on Monastery Swift Spear, hit for the last damage in the air. Inventor's Axe is pretty nice on Amp Raptor, making it a 4/1 first strike. And the annoying thing is you do have to pay energy to equip it. It doesn't have a non-energy equip cost. But at least in my testing, this deck generated so much energy. Most games you were winning with tons of energy to spare. We also got 4 of an Unstable Amulet, which is going to help us just draw back through the deck. Oh, and before we go on to deck number 3, which is a corker, Reiterating Bolt. This is a nice one in this deck. We're going to often have that extra 3 energy, so we can pay 2 mana, remove 2 of the blockers with 1 card. And as you know, in Magic, 2-for-1s are pretty good. So that's Boros Energy, and let's go on to deck number 3. Okay, now for those of you who stuck around, you get my pick for possibly the best Historic Artisan deck there is. We know in Historic that Izzet Wizards is the best, well, one of the best, if not the best, decks in the format. So if you take out the rares, you do lose something. But I think with Modern Horizons 3, we're getting some new pieces that we can throw in here. It makes it a lot of fun. Definitely maybe not the best build of the deck. I think probably any build of the deck is going to run 4 expressive iterations if you're fully optimized, possibly 4 Balmor Battle Mage Captains. If you've watched this channel, you know I love this card. 1/3 flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you're going to give your whole team +1/+0 and trample. Still, I tested this deck. It runs very, very good. It's very demoralizing for opponents. First of all, we do have Symmetry Sage, the alchemized version. So it's an 0/3 flying, and it's going to get a +3 base power whenever you cast a spell. Birthday Escape, normally you would probably run a couple of these. Delver of Secrets is a possibility. It's not really run in the regular list, but again, we're losing some cards. Fading Hope, if you need more interactions, you can run more of these. Now, here's a new MH3 card right here. Triton Wavebreaker. It's a 1/1 prowess, but you can also bestow it. So cast it as an aura spell, which will trigger prowess on other things, which is nice. Tune the Narrative is just a great draw card. Draw a card, get 2 energy. We can use that in combination with Galvanic Discharge to basically clear almost anything. Even if an opponent is dropping giant Eldrazi's, we're going to get enough energy to start being able to hit through them. Or we try to fly over them. Of course, Mentor's Guidance has been alchemized. It's a draw 2 for when you have a Scry 2 draw 2 whenever you have a wizard in play. And almost everything we have is a wizard except for Monastery Swiftspear. This nice little Triton Wavebreaker is a wizard as well, Merfolk Wizard. Crash Throughs, I only did 2 of these. We got full 4 of Ancestral Angers because this is going to pump up as well as give, as well as draw the card. Only 1 of Electrostatic Infantry. You could probably go up more of these if you feel like it. Alchemy card, maybe people haven't seen, as Accident Prone Apprentice. It's a kind of like a prowess creature itself. It can actually grow, kind of like actually Electrostatic Infantry, where it grows permanently. It can grow while it's in exile, so if you've cast the instant side Amphibian Accident, which is a nice little trick, especially if you're hitting with a trample creature and they think they're going to make a trade, and then you drop their thing to a 1/1, their thing dies, and you trample over them. It's a pretty nasty trick. And then what's interesting here is because we got these couple energy cards, we got a little energy package, we can play Rush of Inspiration, and we actually do have the ability to sometimes pay the 2 energy, so it just becomes a 3 mana draw 2 cards, which can also be a land for us, which is nice. Other dual land here is Eroded Canyon, which is the pain land, or the, what do they call it? The crime land from OTJ. And of course, you've got to run Wizard's Lightning. There is Ghostfire, which we saw in the Boros deck, which is another possibility. Judging by the meta, there are people running a lot of multicolor spells, but you're almost never paying the full freight for Wizard's Lightning. And Rush of Inspiration, it's only kind of if you flood out, then you've got a little bit of flood protection here with those. So that's the deck. Super streamlined. Kills, especially if you get a Balmor down, get a couple creatures in a Balmor, and then just unload your bunch of spells. It kills very, very fast, very, very effectively. Turn 4 kill, maybe even a turn 3 kill is possible. I haven't done the math on it, but that is my pick for potentially the Historic Artisan best deck. There are like leagues and things I looked at, but it was all old information. There's not a lot of information. There might be some Discord somewhere that I haven't been able to find where people are tuning these decks and playing against each other. And if you know of something, leave that in the comments, and leave in the comments which of these decks you like. Thanks for watching. I've been Manadad, reminding you Magic is a game so fun, even dads can enjoy it. And check out some of these other budget decks that YouTube thinks you'll like, linked to the side.